Rocketman, seriously, go see Rocketman, because it is going to be a phenomenal movie, for real. Okay, you guys need to see this movie. Get your advance tickets. Get your tickets as soon as you can. Bring your friends. Coffee here. Alright, the trailer looks awesome. But I will put a link down below with a link to the trailer. And also, they have released a music video to Taron Egerton, who plays Elton John. They released a music video to Taron singing Rocketman, and it has a lot of clips from the movie. So I'll be linking that down below as well. And I mean, looking at the trailer, looking at the music video, I mean, this movie is like Oscar worthy. I mean, I'm serious. It is phenomenal looking. You guys have to check out this movie. And today what I'm going to be doing is giving you my top 5 things that I'm looking for when going to see Rocketman. Now, Rocketman comes out in theaters in the US May 31st, 2019, and it comes out in the UK May 24th, 2019. This is a biopic. It's a fantasy biopic, but it's also going to have a lot of really important moments of his life will be shown in this movie. It's not quite clear to the public really what he was going through, and so like I'm a huge fan, but even I have a lot of questions about what happened in certain points of his life. I mean, a lot of it was described by Elton, like in interviews, and he also wrote a book like in 2013. The name of the book is Love is the Cure. But even then, I don't know. I have a lot of questions and things that I really want to know. So without further ado, here is my top 5 things that I'm looking for when I go to see the movie Rocketman. Okay, the first huge thing that I think needs to be addressed is Elton's relationship with his father. His father's name's Stanley, and evidently Stanley was like in the military, and he was also a musician, a really good musician. I think he played the trumpet, and but also he was a very like strict father to Elton, and very I don't want to say controlling, but basically he was a little bit militant in raising Elton, and so Elton's mother and mother's name's Sheila, and Stanley, Elton's father, they evidently got into a lot of arguments, and that really caused a lot of trauma with Elton, and they're oftentimes arguing about Elton as he was growing up, and that just caused a lot of fear. Now Elton, has a lot of fear of his father, and so actually one time I read that Elton said that his father never saw him perform in concert, and I'm like, oh my God, how can you not see your own son perform in concert, as famous as he is and as talented as he is? I just want to know what happened. So Elton John has said that his father never came to see him perform in concert. Once he became famous, he went back and visited his father at his father's house and to reconnect, basically, and things did not go the way Elton thought that they would go. And there's actually a part in the trailer where I think, don't quote me, but I think this is when Elton goes to see his father and his half brothers, who his father had several kids when he got remarried, and And I think the scene in the trailer where Elton's crying in the car, I believe that's when Elton goes to see his father, and it didn't go the way he thought it was. I mean, he had, at that point, he had been famous for several years, became very wealthy, successful, but he still just did not get approval that he was looking for from his father. So I think that scene, and it's a really like intense looking scene in the trailer where Elton is like in the back seat of a car, and he's just like, and there's like a door that shuts in the house, and he's like looking, and he's just like crying, and I'm like, oh my god, that's so sad. Wow, as successful as Elton was, it's just like he could not have that relationship with his father that he so desperately wants. And I think that really is going to come through in the movie, and I really hope that's going to be addressed and kind of gone through a little bit more. The second thing I'm looking for in this movie is Elton's manager, John Reid. Now, this guy, John Reid, has some serious Mufasa vibes going on with him. Like in the trailer, his manager, there's a point where Elton said, "Do you even care how much pressure I'm under?" And his manager said, "Not really. I'm still going to be collecting my 20% long after you're dead." And so I was like, whoa, this guy is like toxic. Okay, like I'm a huge Elton John fan, and I've read a lot of interviews. I've read, books about Elton's life, and nowhere over the years that I've read up on Elton's life did it mention, not that I'm aware of at least, not that I can recall, where he had a romantic relationship with John Reid. When I found out about that, I think I found out a couple years ago, because I had heard things about John Reid. Like they had, John Reid was Elton's manager for, I guess it was like 25, 30 years. And you would think, if you're a manager, if you have a manager for that long, you must be like super close, super tight. And I had heard about in 2000 how Elton had just like completely cut ties with John Reid over something to do with how John Reid managed his finances. He had misappropriated funds, allegedly. So I knew that like in the year 2000 they had like just cut ties. Oh, and John Reid was also shown in the documentary Tantrums and Tiaras, which is a documentary that David Furnish, Elton's husband or partner at the time, filmed about their life. And John Reid made an appearance, not a huge appearance, but he made an appearance. And and I don't know, that relationship that they had, I think it was like really like under wraps because the public didn't know about it, and they certainly didn't know that they were living together, and they certainly didn't know they were lovers. Interesting. I just want to know what happened with their relationship. I'm curious to know what really went down. I think Elton's been very tight-lipped about his relationship. And in the trailer to the movie Rocketman, it does allude to some like abuse. Like there was there's a picture that came out from them filming the movie where Richard Madden, who plays John Reid, like slapped Elton over the face, and there's like some arguing and whatnot. So yeah, it seems like that relationship is like marked with abuse. The next thing that I am looking forward to being covered in the biopic is Elton's suicide attempt that occurred around the time that he was playing the concert series in Dodger Stadium. I think this was in like 75. And evidently he had swallowed a bunch of pills and jumped into the swimming pool, and he had like his mother and his grandmother there and like a lot of friends and things around. And he ended up being rushed to the hospital, having a stomach pump. And so that scene is like dramatically portrayed in the movie, where you see Taron Egerton like just like flopping like a dead weight into the pool. And so I thought that was like really like intense. It's like, I mean, this movie just seems like it's just like so spot on in so many different ways. Like just from like clips that I've seen of like parts of Elton's life and interviews and books and things that I've read, it's just like they have you know, gone through and really accurately, very accurately portrayed really important things in Elton's life. It's like the clothes that he wore, the costumes, just things that people say. It's just like so accurate, and I just so looking forward to seeing this movie for that reason. So I want to see what led up to the suicide attempt, because I feel like in a lot of ways Elton he talks about the suicide attempt, but I feel like he doesn't really go like deep into what was going on. And I'm wondering, is it something going on with his manager? Was there like, because he was like so in the closet and the public didn't know, was it him just having a hard time being closeted and so famous and a performer and not able to express himself as a gay man? Like, was it stress of touring? Was it the alcohol? Was it the bulimia? I mean, evidently Elton was going through, you know, bulimia, alcohol abuse, drug abuse, you know, pretty much being in the closet and just under like a whole lot of pressure and touring like almost nonstop. If they give us kind of like clear indication of like what really like created this desire in Elton to like kill himself. And another thing, after the suicide attempt, this was in 1976, there was a Rolling Stone interview where the interviewer asked Elton if he's gay, and Elton answered yeah. He had said that he's bisexual. And so after that interview was published, there was a huge backlash against Elton John and his music in the U.S. And a lot of people, there's a lot of homophobia. A lot of people stopped buying his records. A lot of people, I mean, it was just awful. It was just terrible time for Elton. There was just so much homophobia in America after that. Rolling Stone interview was published, which Elton admitted that he's bisexual. So after that interview, there was a time when Elton made huge changes with his life. He discontinued touring. He fired a couple of members of his band, and he and Bernie Taupin no longer worked together. He found a different lyricist to work with. His name's Gary Osborne. And so he made a lot of changes after that suicide attempt and that article that came out in that interview with Rolling Stone. So at that point, and the music he released was a bit different. It wasn't quite, it was still very, very high quality music, very good music, but it wasn't like the same style of music that he played before. So he was making like, you know, some really big changes. Okay, the fourth thing that I'm looking for in the upcoming biopic, Rocketman, is an honest portrayal of Elton's drinking, drug use, and bulimia. I kind of wonder how the movie is going to address Elton's drug addiction and alcohol addiction without making the movie like too dark. Because I mean, Elton's admitted he's gone through like very, very dark times, and with drinking and drug use. And it's such a difficult subject to cover in a biopic, that there's a risk of it being, of like the movie being too dark and depressing. But I don't know. I'm curious how they're going to handle that. Because I have a feeling that a lot of audience members wouldn't want to go too far down that rabbit hole. But for me, I want to see what was actually going on with Elton and his life, and what what that was like for him to go through that. And also, you know, he struggled with bulimia, and I think, you know, there's a great opportunity in this movie to portray bulimia in men and raise awareness with bulimia in men and how men cope with having an eating disorder. I think that will be an eye-opening experience for you know, everybody that watches this movie, because that is not really shown very often, or hardly at all, in the media. So it's a great opportunity to raise awareness about bulimia. The last thing I am looking forward to seeing in this movie, Rocketman, this biopic Rocketman, is how they're going to cover a 1980s Elton John. Because in the description I read about the biopic, it says it's a movie that's going to cover Elton's formative years. And in the movie, in the trailer, they have a lot of clips and things from Elton's 70s, 1970s years, basically through 76. But I want to see how the movie portrays Elton as like a more mature artist in the 80s. His style changed. He looked different. He didn't look like, you know, your typical pop star. From what Elton said himself about the 80s for him, you know, it was like his drug use got worse, his drinking got worse. Though he was still having a lot of hits, a lot of great I think he was putting out phenomenal music. I mean, he had so much success in the 80s for me. But I know that for Elton, moving from, you know, being younger and being a pop star and being top of the world to, you know, having kind of this homophobia directed at you, and you know, kind of maturing as a person, and like where he all fit in the music scene and all that. I'm just curious how the movie is going to cover like Elton and what he was going through like in the 80s. And, you know, he got married in like 84, and Elton himself talked about, or he wrote about that marriage in his book, his 2013 book, Love is the Cure. He did go over that marriage and his reasons for getting married and his reasons for getting a divorce after 4 years. And he's had different interviews where he's talked about that marriage, and he has a lot of regrets and just different things. But the thing is that the wife, the woman that he married, she doesn't give interviews. She is like completely silent on her marriage to Elton John. She does not talk to the media. So I'm wondering, how are they going to cover that marriage without really, I don't know if the movie got her input or if they're going off of just, you know, Elton and friends that they had at the time. So I'm really curious on like how, like what really happened with that marriage. And so these are like really difficult waters to navigate. Like so, and also I'm wondering like how does the movie end? Like how does this biopic where is the natural ending to this story? Is it when he got sober in 1990? Was it when he started his Elton John AIDS Foundation? Was it when he, you know, started having children? I mean, I don't know. I'm just curious how this movie is going to end and what is the natural ending going to be? What really was going on with Elton in the 80s and leading up to him becoming sober in 1990. And also there was the relationship, friendship with Ryan White and Elton's increasing awareness of HIV/AIDS and how it affected, you know, many of his friends, and a lot of his friends died of AIDS. And that's also covered in his book, Love is the Cure. He goes into that in a great detail. That's it. Okay, guys, there you have it. Those are my 5 things that I'm looking for in the new upcoming Elton John biopic, Rocketman. Coming to theaters in the U.S. May 31st, 2019, and coming to theaters in the UK May 24th, 2019. So I'm really looking forward to it. You guys, seriously, you need to check out this movie. Have you seen the trailer? I've linked the trailer down below. It looks phenomenal. I know it's going to be good. I know that it is going to be a good movie just from looking at that trailer, and Taron Egerton's performance is like so amazing, so spot on in a lot of different ways. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. If there's any points in Elton's life that you are really wanting to see covered. Thank you very much for viewing. Bye.